Dave Ramsey is the financial guru who teaches others how to escape financial debt and live a life free of credit cards and unnecessary expenses. Now, while the basic fundamentals of financial living he teaches are fine, what goes on behind the scenes of Dave Ramsey's company are quite shocking. Dave was just recently hit with a $150 million lawsuit from former listeners of his radio program after they felt they were defrauded by a company he promoted. Dave has also had a lawsuit brought against him for allegedly firing a pregnant employee because she was not married, and the most shocking of all is the fact that Dave has been known to pull out a loaded firearm at company meetings to intimidate employees who gossip about him. Now, all of this is a lot to unpack, and for longtime listeners of Dave Ramsey's radio show and YouTube channel, which draws in millions of viewers every month, it may be a hard pill to swallow. But as we go over it, I'll provide the documentation of Dave's long history of apparently overstepping his bounds as an employer and leading many of his employees to eventually speak out against him, after witnessing multiple unhinged business practices by Dave and his team. Before we get into the lawsuit, let's talk about how Dave Ramsey got his start. Back in the 1980s, he was flipping homes with short-term loans from a local bank. The bank he was working with was eventually bought by a larger bank who felt Dave was way over-leveraged. The bank, worried they would lose the money they loaned him, told Dave he had to pay $1.2 million in loans in 90 days. Dave, unable to do so, eventually had to file for bankruptcy in September of 1988.
So September 22nd of 1988, we met with a bankruptcy attorney.
That night, we signed bankruptcy papers. I'll never forget that.
Following this, Dave lived a very frugal life and eventually was able to pay off all of his debts. Eventually, he began helping other people escape debt, which led to his successful business as a radio host and YouTuber, teaching people to escape their debts and live within their financial means. Now, the first issue I have with Dave is the fact that Dave, like many gurus, are misleading on how to get to the path of wealth. While Dave teaches others to follow his 7 baby steps to financial freedom, these weren't the steps that made Dave massively wealthy. What made millions for Dave was yelling at people on the radio for terrible financial decisions. Dave is an influencer, and that has made him insanely wealthy, not his 7 baby steps to financial freedom.
You called up wanting our advice on stuff when you already don't take our advice, which is also illogical. So I don't know why our advice on real estate works when it doesn't work on the other stuff. So pay your stupid student loan off, get a roommate, and move to a rural community. But you're probably not going to do any of those.
The millions Dave has made from yelling at people seems to have gone to his head, and it's led him and his company into legal hot water on many occasions over the years. Just recently, a lawsuit was filed against Dave seeking $150 million because Dave has for years been promoting a company known as Timeshare Exit Team to help his listeners get out of unwanted timeshares. Sadly, this company was operating a shady business itself and was eventually sued and forced to pay $2.6 million to its defrauded customers. The company would claim they have a 100% money-back guarantee, but did not always honor that claim. According to the lawsuit, individuals who tried to hire Timeshare Exit Team were charged thousands of dollars for services, and then many times told to negotiate with their timeshare provider on their own without the help of the company. Dave Ramsey received thousands of letters from customers saying that they were unhappy with the company, but continued to promote them despite that, and only stopped promoting the company after Timeshare Exit Team stopped paying him. The lawsuit goes on to claim that Dave was paid $30 million for his promotion of the company over the years, and when the company eventually was exposed for its deceptive business practices, instead of admitting fault, Dave doubled down and lashed out at anyone who felt Timeshare Exit Company had done anything wrong.
Mr. Ramsey, why are you endorsing Timeshare Exit Team? I'll answer your question. Why did I endorse Timeshare Exit Team? Because they were doing the right thing and getting people out of timeshares after companies had screwed them.
Now, what's really interesting is that if the lawsuit is accurate and Dave really was being paid to promote Timeshare Exit Team, he may be in additional hot water with YouTube. I found multiple clips on Dave's YouTube channel where he talks about the company and tells people to sign up with them, but nowhere in the clip or video description does it say that the video includes paid promotion. On YouTube, it's against the terms of service to promote a product in your videos without disclosing this is an ad. So if this lawsuit is accurate, Dave has a lot of explaining to do in the courts and to YouTube as well.
I have looked at numerous ways over the years of doing the show to get people out of timeshares, and I never could find anything until I found this company called Timeshare Exit Team about 3 years ago. We started endorsing them, and I've had so much fun pissing off the timeshare people.
Dave Ramsey's lawsuit trouble doesn't end there, as the company has been hit with multiple lawsuits from former employees who were fired from the company over the years for ridiculous reasons. One former employee, Caitlin O'Connor, filed a lawsuit against Dave and his team in 2021, claiming when she was fired, it violated the Family Medical Leave Act and discriminated against her because of her sex. According to Caitlin, she was fired while working at Dave's company because the company found out she was pregnant and Caitlin was not married at the time. Now, this is a tricky situation for Dave's company. On one hand, the company has a morality clause it makes employees follow, and Dave can legally fire people for things that aren't discriminatory, like no sex before marriage. However, firing a pregnant woman would be a form of discrimination, and that is against the law. Caitlin's claim in the lawsuit is that the only reason she was fired was because it was apparent she was pregnant, so there was no way to hide the fact that she was having sex out of wedlock. The lawsuit also claims that other male employees of the company can have sex without being married, but are not fired because there is no way to show they are doing this, since they don't have to worry about getting pregnant. Dave and his team know they can't fire a pregnant woman just for being pregnant outside of marriage, so their argument is to acknowledge that they did fire her, but it has nothing to do with her pregnancy, and she was fired for violating the company's righteous living policy. Dave's company goes on to admit they have fired 8 employees in the past 5 years for engaging in premarital sex. This case is currently still ongoing, with the last update in February of this year, but in my opinion, I think this will be a hard case for Dave's team to win, since it's going to be difficult to prove they knew she was having premarital sex without the pregnancy coming into play, since Caitlin reported that her pregnancy was the main reason for her bosses knowing about her breaking the company's policies. Legal troubles for Dave and his company don't end there, because a former employee named Julie Stamps also sued the company. When Julie started working for the company, she was married to a man, but a few years later she came out as a lesbian and got a divorce. Julie went to her supervisors at the company and told them she would be coming out as a lesbian, and was told she needed to stay in the closet or leave the company. Julie ultimately felt she was forced out of the company for her orientation and later sued Ramsey Solutions. The company denied any wrongdoing, but shortly after agreed to settle with Julie and paid her $76,000 to end the lawsuit. Now, I saved the wildest claim against Dave Ramsey for last. In 2014, the news site The Daily Beast posted an attack piece on Dave that made many wild accusations, with one of them being that Dave once pulled a loaded pistol out of a gift bag to teach us a lesson about gossip. At the time of that article, that was from an anonymous source, and it wasn't able to be confirmed, but that all changed several years later in 2019. Dave Ramsey decided to sue a YouTuber by the name of Meet Kevin after Kevin had made several videos critical of Dave's real estate teachings. Kevin had apparently had some association with Dave's company in the past, and Dave felt it was inappropriate for Kevin to now make these negative videos about him. After Dave sued, Kevin's lawyers had a 20-year employee of Dave sit down for a deposition, which is an under-oath questioning session lawyers use to learn facts about a case from parties involved. Kevin's lawyer, Daniel Horowitz, asked the employee if Dave had ever pulled a gun out of a bag to try and teach a lesson about gossip. Dave's lawyer initially objected to the question, but then allowed the employee to answer, and he confirmed that Dave had indeed done that in the past. Now, I want you to understand just how insane that is. Whatever job you have, whether that be in an office or McDonald's, if you go into work and your boss pulls out a loaded gun because they're pissed that people are gossiping about him, that person is unhinged and you should quit your job immediately. No one should ever have to be subjected to the whims of a raving lunatic like that, and honestly, anyone who does that should never have a position of authority ever again, in my opinion. To end the video, I do want to say that there are hundreds of thousands of people who feel that Dave Ramsey's financial teachings have improved their lives. And I'm not here to say that when it comes to credit card or debt consolidation, Dave doesn't know what he's talking about, but I think it's very clear that over the years, as Dave has gotten more and more wealthy pimping his frugal living methods to millions, that this power has gone to his head and led him and his company to make many questionable, if not downright illegal decisions in the past few years. Hopefully, with the multitude of lawsuits Dave has had to face recently, he can change his ways and make this company a place that employees won't be worried about a loaded gun being pulled on them or being fired because Dave feels they are not holy enough to be graced by his presence.